Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. Earlier this year, I ranked all of the Don Bluth villains. Today, I'm going to be ranking all the heroes that fought them. A few things before we begin. 1. When I say heroes, I mean good side protagonists, deuteragonists, and tritagonists. 2. I'll only be including heroes from Bluth's original films, and won't be counting the many sequels, including Bluth's own Bartok the Magnificent. 3. If a character you like doesn't end up in my list, it's either because they didn't give me enough to write about, or I just found it weird to class them as a hero. Let the ranking begin. Snipes from Rock-A-Doodle. Snipes is a silly and geeky magpie that accompanies Edmund on his quest to bring Chanticleer the rooster back home. Now, I don't see a problem with Snipes on paper, a wacky goofball who lightens the mood during an eternal night, providing the kind of humour that kids tend to giggle at.
Mommy! We're trapped! Mommy!
Settle down!
I also have nothing against one farm animal not being as mature or sentimental as the others, because every community has at least one jerk to mix things up. However, in terms of heroism, Snipes is a bit too flawed for my liking, with the exception of joining the final chant in the movie Showdown, which isn't even a unique contribution by the way. He's quite the useless bird. Heck, there are scenes where he's actually responsible for making things worse for our heroes, and will leave everyone else to clean up his mess.
Ah! We're trapped! We're trapped! We're trapped! Trapped like rats! Trapped
Come
like rats!
back here, you crazy bird! Now settle down, you're rocking the boat!
Yeah, I get he's claustrophobic, but that's not an excuse to potentially drown your friends. Oh, and a lot of the time, he seems totally uninvested in the quest at hand.
You guys, come on, sign this. Here.
Must you bother me whilst I dine?
His weirdly sexist attitude towards all the female characters in the film can come off as really mean-spirited as well, from his needlessly cruel bullying towards little Peepas,
Girls, they think they know everything. Why don't you run home, be a mousewife, make cheese?
to that one snide comment that he makes against Goldie.
What happened?
Ah, she's a woman.
I thought I'd be on the fence about which hero to rank at the bottom, but Snipes made that decision very, very easy. Hubby from The Pebble and the Penguin. Now, to be fair, Hubby is introduced as a nice dude. He's open about his feelings, great with kids, and quite the romantic.
Oh my. It's perfect.
He's a sensitive and gentle penguin, but he will stand up for himself when cornered by his bully. However, once his quest begins, he suddenly becomes manipulative, selfish, and irritating. I'm down for sweet characters showing their flaws, but these traits come right out of nowhere. And the movie creepily frames a lot of them as romantic. Not only does he lie to his sidekick Rocco, so that he will help Hubby get home, but he's also really bad at respecting Rocco's boundaries.
You need a dream.
I got one.
What is it?
Hey, I'm sure not gonna tell you.
Your secret's safe with me.
I don't even know you.
Plus, there's a few scenes where he puts his pebble before Rocco. Yes, Hubby is capable of apologizing to or thanking Rocco, I will give you that. But it's still a very unhealthy relationship. A friendship for the sake of a movie friendship that's more passive-aggressive than wholesome.
Yeah, go.
See how long you last on your own.
Hubby. No!
Huh?
Although, Hubby does deserve credit for proving that he could survive his quest. Despite being a cute softie, he manages to live through countless predator attacks, travel an exhausting distance of ocean, and save his girlfriend from his bully. I just wish that the film didn't sacrifice and ruin all of his green flags in order to help him achieve his goal, because that goes totally against the idea of the film. Giacomo from Folina. When we meet this swallow, he's presented as a whimsical narrator in the vein of the salesman in Aladdin, a flamboyant host who helps Bluth's Folina feel like an old Disney fairy tale.
Vive l'amour. These are stories about the people with impossible problems.
However, once he ends up becoming an actual character in the film, things kind of change, and he becomes a questionable presence. I mean, as soon as he meets our lost Folina, audiences might be puzzled why this literal bird isn't flying her home. Look, I get that he wants to motivate and inspire her, so that she can learn that her size shouldn't stop her from achieving things, but this isn't a kid learning to ride a bike. It's a lost teenage girl, with a very worried mother back home. Sure, he does try to help, but we know that he can do so much more. Heck, we actually see him flying Folina to the fairy kingdom right at the end, so he could have given her a lift all along. He's meant to be the wise mentor trope, but even in this role, he can be heavily criticized. Like, his only advice for Folina's journey home is an abstract "follow your heart," a motto that means absolutely nothing compared to actual real directions.
Do you love the prince?
Yes.
Well then follow your heart. It will lead you home.
I also find it frustrating how he puts his optimism before Thumbelina's feelings. There are moments where Thumbelina has something to say, but Jacques will flat out ignore her while babbling his idealistic catchphrases.
Cornelius is gone.
I will find him. Remember, you should do impossible things.
Stop!
Oh, and when Thumbelina feels sad about being called ugly, the Swallow puts emphasis on how important it is that the prince finds her pretty, which is weirdly patriarchal.
Does Prince Cornelius think you are ugly?
No. He thinks I'm beautiful.
He does encourage her to find herself attractive too, but there's still a sour taste from what he said before. Let's be fair though, he does deserve a pat on the back for how much work he puts into finding the fairy kingdom. He travels the many changing seasons and questions a multitude of predators that could eat him, so he does at least follow his own mantra of never giving up. Rocco, from The Pebble and the Penguin. This northern rock hopper is Hubby's grouchy adventure sidekick. While I do appreciate that the film invented a more grumpy character to balance out Hubby's corny sweetness, I wouldn't say that he's fun company for audiences. He's a deeply insecure and over-defensive penguin who spends about 95% of the film being aggressively angry or exhibiting erratic mood swings.
I don't like you. I hate you. I just happen to hate killer whales a little bit more than you, that's all.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rocco works fine as a straight man to Hubby's annoying wackiness, but that dynamic can only go so far when it doesn't even take that much to wind up Rocco. And sometimes Rocco's temper is too unhinged, like when he almost chokes Hubby to death.
You escaping! You are clear! Clear of that beak!
Yet he does soften up towards the end of the film, I'll give you that, but until then, he's a really hard to like character with a very off-putting personality. The only time when he shows any sincere enthusiasm is when he talks about his impossible dream to fly. However, this goal of his has barely anything to do with the main story, and his pointless attempts to fly can annoyingly interrupt the adventure's urgency.
Rocco?
We have discovered an authentic ancient aviarial airstrip.
What?
Sure, Rocco does eventually fly in the finale, making him helpful in a time of crisis, but I'd rather that he simply helpfully accepted that he can't always get what he wants, instead of being randomly handed a penguin superpower just because he kept whining for it. I will give Rocco this though. He's a very good survivalist and a useful sidekick for this kind of quest. While Hubby is innocently naive about the ocean, Rocco knows how to navigate the Big Blue or outwit any predators that the duo face.
Swim for the berg. I'll lead them away.
No! If you stay, I stay!
No, go on, go on. I'll lead them away. Go on.
Own credit to Rocco for teaching Hubby to fight. The goal of getting Hubby home means very little if his bully Drake just ends up knocking him out in the end. So it's down to Rocco to teach the softie how to defend himself. Gus, from A Troll in Central Park. Gus is a very bratty kid who doesn't respect that his parents need to work to support him. Fed up, he sneaks off with his little sister Rosie to Central Park, where the siblings meet Stanley the Troll and face the wrath of the evil Gnorga. This little boy is very entitled, gets bored way too easily, and has a snarky attitude towards everything.
He can't be a troll because there's no such thing as trolls.
At first, he's pretty grumpy about looking after his sister and being stuck with a cutesy troll, but after spending time with Stanley, he does become a nicer kid and even opens up about his insecurities.
But first, you gotta have a dream.
I haven't got any dreams of my own.
I do also feel bad how much trauma he faces at the hands of Gnorga. Say what you will about his behaviour at home, but he's still just a child. And no kid deserves to face the torment that Gnorga puts this boy through. I'd actually say that he's a lot braver than Stanley too. Sure, he's very young, but still embraces being a big brother to Rosie, and takes his job of getting them both home very seriously. Heck, I genuinely side with Gus when he says this line to a cowardly Stanley.
You'll never have a dream come true! And you know why? Because you're too scared to fight for what you believe in!
He's 100% right. Your dreams are shallow and empty if you don't stand for the values attached to them. Sadly, Gus's promising arc misses the net in the end. His adventure should have taught him about how imagination can help him through boredom, and babysitting Rosie should have made him more understanding about his mum and dad's responsibilities. But nope. He doesn't get to show that he's matured once home, and he just goes back to only caring about what he wants.
Dad, do you think today maybe we could do what I want to do?
Sure, he now has a green thumb to show that he no longer acts like a bad troll, but such symbolism is only cosmetic if he's not really changed. Chanticleer from Rock-A-Doodle. This rooster is responsible for making sure that the sun goes up every day, but when he learns that his crow doesn't cause the sun to rise, he gets mocked by all the other farm animals, and goes off to become a famous rock star for the sleazy Pinky. I'll confess that Chanticleer is lacking in characterization, all because he's more of an extended cameo for country music star Glenn Campbell, with most of his screen time being dedicated to Vegas-style shows, leaving the narrator to provide heavy-handed explanations for whatever gets skipped over.
Goldie was only supposed to pretend to fall in love with Chanticleer, but she was falling in love for real.
Which is a shame, because I'd say that he has the most interesting arc in the film. A once worshipped hero who has been shunned by his community, only to become a lonely rock star that yearns to return to his roots.
Well, I just don't know. I guess I'm just a little lonely.
Lonely? You crazy?
There's a poetic hero's journey here, the tale of a dethroned king that must realize his self-worth by proving that he really is the light in the darkness.
Oh, I can't. I don't know if I ever did.
Of course you did!
Daddy, we were wrong.
It's your job to bring up the sun. It hasn't shined since you left.
It's just that said arc is attached to a pretty flat character who gets pushed to the side by the movie's really huge ensemble cast of animals, resulting in a shallow take on what could have made for fascinating character growth. Jeremy from The Secret of Nim. This clumsy crow is Mrs. Brisby's comic relief sidekick. He does bring some levity to a somber movie about animal abuse and dying children. Plus, I do appreciate how he flies Mrs. Brisby around like he's a chauffeur.
That must be the owl's tree over there.
Don Bluth finds this great balance of realistically bird-like and cartoonily silly for Jeremy's animation.
Sparkly.
However, I've never ever liked Jeremy as a character. Look, I'm all for a goofy sidekick for our heroine, but Jeremy is the result of making a comic relief too annoying. I mean, it's hard for me to laugh at a bird who's being a constant nuisance to a worried and scared mother with a sick kid. Mrs. Brisby already has enough on her plate, so I just feel bad that this crow keeps bothering her for attention and advice, even after she gives him multiple stern goodbyes.
I just need a few pointers to polish my style.
Jeremy, I have got to go home.
Anytime Mrs. Brisby does ask something of Jeremy, he tends to completely botch up a request.
Now, whatever you do, don't tell them where I am.
Bob, you get done with it. You better tell her or I'll tie you back up.
The rose bush!
Or retrieve a much needed item way too late. Whenever he does do the right thing, it's usually by accident or through coincidence.
Hey, we make a pretty good team. Oh, here, you dropped this back there.
He's often moaning and whining about wanting a girlfriend too, yet he never learns to improve his social cues. So I find his last-minute happy ending to be overwhelmingly unearned. Look, The Secret of Nim remains my favourite Bluth film. It's a dang masterpiece. But boy do I wish that I could skip Jeremy's scenes every time I watch it. Stanley from A Troll in Central Park. Stan is a bubbly troll who loves to grow flowers, which is against troll law. So when he's caught gardening, the Queen punishes him by sending him to Earth, Central Park to be exact, where he meets siblings Gus and Rosie. Stanley is certainly Bluth's most bubbly and cutesy character. Many have criticised him for being way too saccharine, and for responding creepily to a kiss from a toddler. To be honest, I do understand why many folks find his sugary sweetness to be annoying.
Oh, we're a lot alike, you and me. My mommy used to read me stories about humans, you know, before she put me to bed.
However, despite Don Bluth's regrets over the character, I wouldn't say that he's not been given any real flaws, because he's letting extreme fear dictate his life, and he's terrified of leaving the comfort zone of his own imagination. This high sensitivity is why he fails to stand up to his evil queen, becomes easily overwhelmed by everything that he encounters on Earth, and doesn't do a very good job of protecting the kids. This is not to say that he's incapable of bravery. There is a rebelliousness to his character. No, really. I mean, there's something punk about how he's growing pretty plants in a flower-hating kingdom, and it takes a non-conforming spirit to dream up a better society. Stanley's problem is that he refuses to act upon this anarchic side of himself. He only dips his toes into revolting against the system. Heck, it takes a little boy to call out his immature cowardice. That is how much of a self-hating pushover he really is.
My prestidigitation is no match for Gnorga's magic.
Oh, sure! You're just saying that because you're scared to fight her!
Yes, he has a hard time gathering courage in the finale, but I like that it kind of takes him a few tries to embrace becoming a hero, because realistically, being brave can be a wobbly stumble if you're having a hard time conquering your fear. Extra points for letting Stanley use his green thumb to win the day, because it shows that his gardening talent always had the potential to be weaponized against evil. Stanley has been made to feel that flower power is a sign of weakness for trolls. But the thing is, plants can be badass in confident hands. Just look at how the film ends with Stanley's greenery reclaiming what humans have built over. Marina, from The Pebble and the Penguin. Marina is certainly the most likable character in this Don Bluth film. A very sweet and genuine penguin who not only loves Hubby for who he is, but also tries her very best to be patient with his anxious stutter.
Nah, you think it was silly.
I bet it's not silly at all. Try me.
She doesn't feel any attraction at all towards villain Drake, because she has enough of a good judgment to look past his penguin pecs to see the toxic masculinity that resides within him. It's also impressive how much ground she holds against the bully jock. No matter how much Drake tries to pressure her, she stands firmly by her no, all while fully knowing how freaking dangerous this muscle-up penguin is. I wish I was as brave as her when it came to creeps.
I wouldn't marry you if you were the last penguin on Earth.
Don't worry. I'll make it official with the obligatory pebble and all that.
The answer is no!
Even when Drake reminds Marina about the threat of banishment against penguins without mates, Marina still refuses to be Drake's girlfriend. That's how passionate she feels about her feelings for Hubby, plus she has every right to decline Drake's advances.
I want you to be my mate.
Drake. I love Hubby.
As nice and brave as she is though, I'll admit that her character is very much defined by her relationships with all the men in the film. I mean, we don't really get to know her outside of the context of her love life. So yeah, I like her just fine as a heroine, but I do wish that her personality was developed beyond I love Hubby. Goldie, from Rock-A-Doodle. This fabulous pheasant is a chorus girl at Pinky's nightclub, but she dreams of bigger stardom. So she agrees to do Pinky's dirty work by seducing her boss's biggest star, Chanticleer, while also keeping our heroes away from the famous rooster. Now, yes, Goldie technically works for a villain, but I wouldn't say that she's a bad person. If anything, she's a victim of the music industry, a struggling performer who wants to grow her career, but is naive and vulnerable to the corrupt and manipulative Pinky.
Look, he's lonely. He needs a friend. And that bad little kitty wants to steal him away. You don't want that, do you?
She might seem ditzy and doesn't exactly hide her jealousy of Chanticleer, but under her femme fatale surface, she's actually a deep thinking and feeling woman. I mean, it doesn't take her long to fall for Chanticleer for real, as well as work out that her wealthy boss has been tricking her all along.
Lock him up. Make sure the king doesn't get whiff of this.
Oh no, what have I done?
She even tries her very best to break the truth to Chanticleer once she realizes what's been going on, and you can tell that her confession is coming from a sincere place.
Think I've done something awful.
It's a shame that Goldie's redemption just kind of ends there. Sure, she gets to slap an annoying minion and nurse a conked-out Chanticleer, but that's it really. Saying that, I do find it comforting that she leaves the dark music industry behind to live a humble life in the countryside. Sure, I feel bad that she's had to let go of her dreams, but at least she's now far away from sleazy record producers who want to exploit her. Patu, from Rock-A-Doodle. This very good boy is another farm animal who supports Edmund's big city quest. He's also the narrator of Rock-A-Doodle, with Phil Harris's charming southern drawl giving said narration a storybook vibe.
This was our rooster, Chanticleer, and though it was true that he liked to horse around some, fact was, that boy could sing.
While he doesn't do anything especially radical as a hero, he's always around to provide some kind of support. He has this blue-collar, let's get the job done kind of approach to heroism that helps the other characters' ideas flow naturally.
Let's go in for a landing! Hold on!
Yes, he does accidentally knock out poor Chanticleer at one point, but he feels genuinely bad about it. Sure, he's a silly sausage for struggling to tie his shoes, but this setback inspires a sweet bonding moment for himself and Edmund.
It's over, around, under, and through.
He's kind of a grandfather figure in the film, looking out for Edmund like a grandson, while also applauding him whenever he comes up with a bright idea.
Hey, boy. We were this close. Oh, that flashlight biz was quick thinking on your part.
Heck, when Edmund gets choked by the Grand Duke, that's enough to make this granddad go into badass mode.
Chanticleer.
No, look here, quiet.
Thumbelina, from Thumbelina. Born from a flower, Thumbelina is a digit-sized teenage girl who falls for a fairy prince called Cornelius. Unfortunately though, she ends up getting lost in the wild, and a bunch of creepy suitors want to exploit or marry her. I can picture some folks getting quickly annoyed at Thumbelina because she's so naive and gullible, but let's be fair, she's a teenage tiny person who has been secluded from the world for her own safety. I'd actually say that it makes a lot of sense that she would be this innocent.
Am I a star?
Yes, and you can call me Mama.
Mama?
At the end of the day, she's a very lost girl who is being taken advantage of by cruel and selfish villains.
We are gonna be the talk of the town, Toots!
I'm not your Toots! And I don't even look like a beetle!
It doesn't help that this world wasn't designed for a human of her size. The outdoors is already a confusing and dangerous place for inexperienced average-heighted people, but it must be even more traumatizing for a thumb-sized girl. I'd also argue that Thumbelina does go through a coming of age. She starts off as a wide-eyed teenager with a very romanticized view of the world, but the more misfortunes or obstacles she faces, the more she realizes that life isn't all gumdrops and rainbows.
Winter has killed everything. Even the sun.
This harsh reality makes her realistically question Jacques' optimistic philosophy and eventually sadly surrender herself to Mr. Mole for a stable life. However, it's only when she gives up that she realizes that this isn't the life she wants. So, in spite of how the world has treated her, she finds the courage to protest against her own wedding and even stand up to all the predatory suitors that have been objectifying her.
No! I know marry you! I go home!
No!
Go away!
Thumbelina goes through a rite of passage in this film, a turbulent journey that humbles her whimsical worldview, but also teaches her to value her own agency and feel allowed to pursue the partner of her choice. Have there been better cartoon heroines since her? Oh yes, absolutely. But there's still a little earnesty to a coming-of-age arc that isn't without merit. Cornelius from Thumbelina. This fairy prince is Don Bluth's tribute to the Disney princess of yesteryear, a nostalgic callback to the royal himbos of the Silver and Golden Age. He does come with the usual baggage of those retro characters. From thinking that breaking into the heroine's home is a romantic meet-cute,
May I cut in? Oh, no, wait.
to mistaking shallow infatuation for deep love. However, there's a charm to the square innocence of his character that's kind of endearing. While I can't say that his feelings for Thumbelina are maturely romantic, as the film seems to kind of suggest, they are authentic to the youthful and joyful bliss of a teenage crush. We've all been 16, and many of us remember the excitement of a first date.
Do not forget me.
Forget-me-nots. Oh, I'll never forget you. Never.
Personality-wise, Cornelius is a decent lad, with polite manners, patient understanding, and a good sense of humour. For example, I quite like that when Thumbelina childishly laughs at his old-fashioned name, he doesn't let it bruise his ego in the slightest. He's that chill of a dude. He's extremely brave for venturing off to find the lost Thumbelina, knowing full well that his father can only hold off winter for so long. Unfortunately, he does face the consequences to this risky rescue mission, and spends a lot of the film in ice.
Okay, you pick him up. Let's get out of this stinking weather before we're statistics.
Luckily, he's later unfrozen, and Bluth lets him have all those classic fairy tale moments, like the climactic duel against the villain, and a happily ever after with his princess. The kind of sweet stuff the fans of this enchanting genre love.
And I'll never let you fall.
It's you.
Yes, compared to the animated princes of the time, the 1990s to be exact, Cornelius is rather dated and maybe even a bit bland, but his old-fashioned simplicity will be very evocative for those who grew up with Snow White or Sleeping Beauty. Gussy from An American Tail. Gussy is the richest mouse in New York, and the leader of the mice revolt against the city's oppressive cats. Sure, she's a very snobby and classist woman.
Those cats are killing everyone. They don't even know the difference between rich and poor.
But she's at least aware of her privilege.
Money is not everything. I know because I have money and I have everything. But what are they worth without freedom?
Unlike other mice in positions of power, she's willing to pull up her socks and get the ball rolling for action against the cats, as she leads her political movement with the utmost commanding seriousness.
The cats must be here at 6 on the dot, not a moment before or after.
Plus, it's possible that all of the resources being used were funded or provided by Gussy. If she's going to be a pampered millionaire, at least she's also willing to use her wealth for constructive good. And when I do love that while she giggles at Fivel's idea for the giant mouse at first, she's also quick to realize that it's actually a great plan. Which means that she's willing to swallow her pride and take a suggestion that seems far out and childlike.
Wait a minute. I think this little fellow has got something here.
However, I would say that her crowning moment is when she gets to rub Warren T. Rat's Larceny's face. It's seriously satisfying watching this aging diva royally rip into the evil con artist.
When you're through, washed up, ruined, you'll never get another cent from any mouse anywhere.
Ichi from All Dogs Go to Heaven. This dachshund is the loyal sidekick of Charlie Barkin. However, their friendship is challenged when Charlie starts obsessing over vengeance against his ex-partner Carface by kidnapping the villain's gambling cheat card, Anne-Marie. Ichi is very against this whole scheme and would rather go into hiding from Carface, but he puts his loyalty to Charlie first, risking his life to help his boss achieve his vision, as he puts his all into every step of the scheme. Heck, once the duo can afford to build a new casino, Ichi not only does most of the construction work, but also takes on the demanding role of bartender. No matter what you think of Ichi's morals, we can't deny his commitment as a friend. Even though this dachshund relishes in the riches that Anne-Marie brings, he finds the little girl to be an annoying nuisance who will attract trouble.
Are you getting any of that in your mouth up there? Ew, it's just... Oh, come on, give me a break, give me a break.
This grievance reaches its boiling point when Carface, who wants Anne-Marie back, preys upon Ichi at night as the poor dachshund bears the brunt of the villain's wrath, just because Charlie wasn't around.
You wanted revenge on Carface and I said, no, please, let's get out of town. But I stayed because you're my friend.
However, Ichi also lacks compassion for Anne-Marie herself, so he's not some guiltless party. He holds an immature bitterness towards the child, even though she's just a kid and he's the one that betrayed her. Thankfully, Ich gets to redeem that, when he plays an integral role in saving the little girl's life in the finale, doing his part to rescue the child that he once only saw as a gold mine. In return for this redemption, Anne-Marie adorably agrees to adopt him, thus giving Ichi the peaceful life that he wanted from the start. Charlie from All Dogs Go to Heaven. This German Shepherd is quite the charmer, a cocky and smooth-talking canine that knows how to chat people up. However, when his casino co-partner Carface murders him, he ends up in dog heaven, so he escapes back to Earth to get revenge by stealing Carface's gambling cheat card, a little girl who can talk to animals called Anne-Marie. I won't lie, Charlie is a tricky character to like. He's a self-centered pooch who's exploiting a child for wealth while taking his plucky best friend for granted. Sure, he's suave and charismatic, plus he does have his moments of charity or generosity, but he's still maybe Bluth's most narcissistic hero. That said, in spite of his list of flaws, he does have a compelling character arc. I do find it interesting seeing him wrestle between parts of himself, with the introduction of Anne-Marie making him go through an identity crisis.
Ichi, you gotta keep the little kid happy, right?
He's clearly split between wanting to keep up his tough guy act and taking on the mantle of kind Uncle Charlie, two opposing lifestyles that Charlie can't live at the same time. But that doesn't stop him from trying, all at the expense of other people's feelings.
With her, it's just business. It's always been business. I'm using the girl.
Charlie's internal conflict is made even more stressful by the fact that he's haunted by the threat of being sent to hell if he ever dies again. A visceral fear that consumes his mind so much that he starts having full-on nightmares about an eternity in the pits of fire. The film's finale forces Charlie to confront his two lies face to face, in a climax that shows the severe consequences of dragging a child into gangster affairs. Charlie must now pick between saving his tail or putting Anne-Marie before his own needs. Ultimately, he chooses from the heart, which leads to a bittersweet sacrifice that's made all the more heartbreaking by how these are child actress Judith Barcy's last lines on screen.
Oh, Charlie, I'll miss you.
While I do prefer Charlie's characterization in All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 a lot more, I still find his arc in the first film to be a fascinating look into the duality of crime and innocence, as well as the repercussions of revenge obsession. Edmund from Rock-A-Doodle. When this little farm boy gets turned into a kitten by the Grand Duke, he must gather a team of critters to go retrieve Chanticleer, a rooster who can potentially defeat the Crooked Owl. Edmund is very much the archetypal Don Bluth hero kid, a character who is here to fill in a trope, but that's not to say that he's a badly written take on the template. He has all of the best attributes of past Bluth child heroes. His background as a farm boy helps him to be both hardworking and quick thinking, especially when it comes to thwarting the light-hating owls.
What does he want with the camera?
Oh, and whenever the team reaches a dead end, Edmund doesn't sulk or give up. He's always the one to keep the ball rolling. He has no time to faff about.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, where you going?
Well, if I can't talk to him, I'll talk to her.
Plus, a failed plan means nothing to him, because he'll often scrap together a backup to outweigh whatever fate throws at the team.
Something I learned in school.
Cats don't go to school.
But boys do.
While he doesn't have a personal bond with Chanticleer, he does see the rooster as his book hero, a fictional character from a bedtime favourite that he dearly idolizes.
Shuffy! Whoa!
Shut up, you.
Come on, you guys! Show him we believe!
Despite showcasing a knack for many instincts or skills, Edmund can let his fear get to him. Then, when Peepas takes his place in a task, all because he's too scared to do it, and almost gets herself killed, he soon realises that he has to be brave for everyone's sake.
Guys, we're gonna go back and get him!
Although, said character development is delivered in a very bizarre way, a psychological meltdown that comes right out of nowhere, and it's one of many baffling creative decisions in Bluth's trippiest movie. Petri from The Land Before Time. Petri is a jittery and nervous tiny pteranodon who joins Littlefoot's journey to the Great Valley. He might have wings, but he actually can't fly yet. He has the potential to reach the sky, it's just that he's yet to find the courage to take flight. His natural anxiety over everything is what makes it hard for him to confidently fly. But that's not to say that he never tries, or doesn't want to flutter like a butterfly. He gives it a go a few times, despite his ironic fear of heights. There's bravery to be found in him, like when he insists that he can take on the mantle of protector of Littlefoot's precious tree star, or how hard he tries to shake leaves out of a tree while starving. If the emotional incentive is there, he can be a courageous little dino. This is most evident when he becomes a far more agile and assertive flyer the very moment that his friend Ducky is in danger. Dang, he's maybe the most physically aggressive towards Sharptooth in the finale. Jory's attacks are comically useless, but it takes a bold tenacity for such a tiny kid to stand up to a huge T-Rex. We become so endeared by Petri as a character that his supposed death hits us like a ton of bricks, only to give us a moment of relief right after. Bridget from An American Tale. This teenage activist is very vocal about mouse rights and wants to take a stand against the constant cat attacks towards her kind. Unlike other mice, she's happy to say the C word because she wants to take that power away from the felines.
This is America. We have free speech. You can say cat here. Cat, 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 and double cat.
She's sadly lost her parents, but she's adapted to independence quite well and seems to be protesting in the name of the family that she's lost. This grief also helps us to immediately resonate with the lost Fivel, and she's the only character who seems to be taking Fivel's situation seriously, as she becomes the mother figure that poor Fivel misses.
Now don't you worry. Yours are all right, and they're out there somewhere. Now, get some sleep.
However, as fast as she's forced to grow up, the film does still let her act like a teenage girl. I mean, as soon as she meets Fivel's pal Tony, she becomes putty around him, and her duties suddenly fade from mind. You could argue that boys are her one weakness, which is pretty normal for folks her age.
So, if we all got together, we could do something about the cats.
During the search for Fivel in the finale, Bridget is the one who finds Fivel's hat, which is what helps Fivel's parents realize that Bridget and Tony are looking for the same Fivel. So kudos to Bridget for playing her part in the family reunion. Once the Mousekowitzes are together again, Bridget is so overjoyed that she kisses a sulky Tony, which actually kind of adds to the atmosphere of celebration. So we're halfway through my video. Feel free to join my Patreon in return for awesome exclusive rewards. Thanks folks. Tony from An American Tale. Tony is a teenaged orphan who befriends the lost Fivel. He's a streetwise and plucky kid with a thick New York accent and an artful Dodger vibe.
Wait a minute. This kid may have something.
Tony Toponi's the name.
He becomes like a big brother to Fivel, their relationship resembling all the typical traits of a normal sibling bond. From an impressionable Fivel copying the older boy, to Tony being too distracted by a pretty girl to pay attention to his bro. While he's not exactly mature, he can be very protective of those that he loves. I mean, he's an orphan child at the end of the day, so he's going to appreciate any chosen family that he can find.
Hey, where's Philly?
Billy? Who's Philly?
Oh, I gotta find him. He's just a kid.
Yeah, he's late to the Mouse Revolution's big plan. However, once he's on the scene, he plays his part in overthrowing our villain. Like when Fivel exposes Warren T. Rat as a cat in disguise, Tony helps back up the claim with his slingshot. Plus, Tony risks his life to light extra fireworks to scare away the cats, which is kind of badass. Tony is also very active in the search for Fivel in the end, being so loud in his shoutouts to Fivel that he grabs the attention of the Mousekowitz family, which totally helps to expand the search party.
His name is Philly.
You see?
And Fivel.
And Fivel.
Yeah, Tony is a grump about not being thanked for his role in finding Fivel, which certainly misses the point of the moment, but that's very in character for him, and he does get shut up by a kiss from his crush. Ducky from The Land Before Time. This Sorolophus is a super adorable little girl, bursting with curiosity and playfulness. She brings a wholesome innocence to Littlefoot's gang, whether she's inventing games to make their adventure more fun, or cracking silly jokes to lighten the mood.
I'm a long neck too, see? And I have a long tail like you.
Despite being one of the smaller dinosaurs in the group, she does her very best to keep up with her mates, showing just as much courage as the bigger kids.
Petri, I'm so happy.
Yes, Petri!
Being the most friendly and social of the team, she finds it easy to immediately befriend a new baby dinosaur called Spike, not only welcoming him into the world, but also adopting him as a new little brother.
Spike, do not stop! We must stay together!
When our heroes decide to take on Sharptooth in the climax, Ducky has the role of being the T-Rex's bait. I'd say it's the most dangerous and life-risking job for Littlefoot's plan, so it's impressive that, despite her obvious terror, she does her very, very best at luring the huge predator. Ducky might not be as mature as Littlefoot, or as strong as Sarah, but her cute giggles and high spirit make her a perfect travel buddy. Tanya from An American Tail. This film is already a very dark, gritty and cruel movie that sets out to dissect the American dream. So it's enlightening to have such an optimistic and idealistic character like Tanya, Fivel's older sister, to counterbalance all that doom and gloom. You see, unlike the rest of her family, Tanya actually has faith in her brother still being alive. While her parents have decided that Fivel must be gone, Tanya cheerfully sings about her strong hope in Fivel still being out there. Maybe it's a sisterly intuition, she could be in the denial stage of grief, or perhaps she just simply believes in Fivel's ability to survive. But nothing seems to deter her from giving up on her missing bro. She may be too young to take part in the Mouse Revolution, but she still uses her trademark fierce positivity to motivate a hardworking father, coaching him to do his very best to bring the Mouse of Minsk to life. I'd also argue that Tanya is a very bright bulb, because she's the only one to add 2 and 2 together when she hears Fivel's friends calling for Philly.
They changed my name to Tilly. Maybe they changed Fivel's name to Philly.
Heck, if it wasn't for Tanya's stubborn sense of hope, despite the odds of Fivel drowning at sea, I don't think that Fivel would have ever been found by his family. So dang does she deserve to feel validated in the end.
Fivel, I knew you were alive. I knew it.
Papa Mousekowitz from An American Tail. Mr. Mousekowitz is a loving and tender father with a jovial and carefree spirit who dearly adores his children. He loves giving them special presents, enjoys telling them stories, and is great at teaching them about the world around them.
Herring are fish.
Really?
Certainly. In the ocean there are all kinds of fish, and herring is one of them.
At the same time though, he can be a stern voice of authority when he needs to keep his kids in line or away from danger. So I wouldn't call him a pushover parent. Unfortunately, once Papa loses little Fivel at sea, he becomes a completely different man. Far more reserved and less optimistic. It doesn't take him long to decide that Fivel is past. Not because he doesn't care, but due to the odds of a child mouse surviving a stormy ocean.
I know, Papa. Play your violin.
Play Fivel's song. Maybe you'll hear it.
You can't find what's not there.
Thankfully, he does slowly get back on his feet at a gradual pace, all thanks to being caught up in a mouse revolution in which he gets to turn the Mouse of Minsk, a folklore hero that he used to use to spark hope for his family, into a tangible figure of rebellion against the cats. Although, it's mainly his daughter Tanya who brings Papa out of the dark void, with her stubbornness serving as a rock for the grieving father who has lost all hope. All that faith that Papa once had lives on in the daughter that he's raised. Movingly, it's Papa's violin that helps the family call out to Fivel in the climax. And amazingly, it works, which is a dang miracle when Fivel had been tricked by sounds of violin throughout the whole film. Oh, and boy is it rewarding to see father and son finally reunite. I can really see and feel the unbridled joy beaming from this once defeated dad. Peepas from Rock-A-Doodle. Peepas is the brains of Edmund's team. She's an incredibly useful and important member of the group, all thanks to a multitude of skills and wide education. Whenever the characters face a dilemma, Peepas is usually the one who finds a solution.
Pull on this! It works!
I honestly love how proud and confident she is of herself. She feels special for having a lisp, is willing to backtalk her bullies, and loves using herself as an example of size not mattering.
I can do lots of things, and I'm a lot smaller than you.
I wouldn't relegate her to just being the smart one though, because she's also exceptionally brave, maybe even the most courageous out of every farm animal. This is what stops her from being just a plain nerd trope. Dang, she's the one who calls out Edmund for being too scared sometimes.
I'll do it myself. You're such a scaredy cat. Here we go.
Which sure might seem harsh, but if anyone has the right to tell someone small to have some guts, it's Peepas. One of my favourite scenes of hers is when she ends up in the villain's blimp and immediately knows its exact model plus how to pilot it. It really sums up what makes her character great. Stiff from Titan AE. Stiff is a weapons specialist for Captain Corso's crew. She makes a rather hostile first impression, but it's blatant that her bad temper comes from being overqualified for what she does. She's highly educated, yet she's stuck doing odd jobs for higher ups.
Preed, I'll kill you. Okay, I will kill you. Oh! I am educated and well-read. I am not a mechanic.
Unlike the Weasley Preed, she has self-respect and doesn't treat serious tasks as a chance to show off. Heck, she usually has to provide the plan B to Preed's failed ideas, proving that she's much smarter and stronger than the ship's first mate. Don't assume that she's just a mean and scary kangaroo-esque alien, because she's a tender soul under her scowl and growl. She's capable of comforting fellow crew members, responds strongly to injustice, and does want to play a part in the fight against the oppressive dredge.
Let's do this!
While she doesn't know about Corso or Preed's secret partnership with the dredge, she does have the intellect and gut instinct to work out that something is very fishy, especially after the captain starts showing his true colours. So she's not exactly gullible about what's going on.
Watch the ship, I always watch the ship.
I don't know, this just doesn't feel right.
Stiff is such a lovable badass that you'll end up wishing that she was the captain in this movie, although she does end up taking command after the dredge war, which is pretty cool. Sarah from The Land Before Time. Sarah is a tough-talking and stubborn triceratops with a prejudice towards any species outside her own, and a frequent need to prove her strength or confidence. She's less of a willing friend of Littlefoot's group, and more of a reluctant member who tags along.
I'm leaving. Sarah, we have to keep following the bright circle. I'm taking the easy way for once.
Some audiences might talk harshly of her arrogance and meanness, but I think it's important to point out that she's a product of her father.
Come, Sarah. Three horns never play with long necks.
She's the most tragic character in the franchise, because every time we see her act defensive or take something too much to heart, we know that it's because of how she was raised. You can tell that her dad hasn't taught her compassion or survival instincts, but only strength, pride, and hate. Hence why she struggles to take over as leader later on, and breaks down after failing to lead the charge. This poor girl has not been prepared for the world, and has just been turned into a mini version of her awful dad.
We could, help each other.
A three-horn does not need help from a long neck.
This is what makes her growing bond with the other herbivore kids so special. Just being part of Littlefoot's group is an act of rebellion, as she uses her strength to protect her junior herd from a predator, and develops an eternal friendship with those that she was taught to despise. Tiger from An American Tail. This fluffy feline might be a member of the rough and tough Mall Street Maulers, a gang of cats who love terrorizing mice. But he's actually a sweet kitty and a vegetarian as well.
Oh, a little fish now and then. But what I really like is some nice broccoli.
He sticks out like a sore thumb in the gang, and you can tell that his heart isn't in being a gangster. It's his meeting with Fivel that changes everything, as he's forced to confront a victim of his gang face to face, and the boy's cries are enough to break his heart.
Oh, hey, don't start that. I didn't mean to scare you that much, really. It's okay, little buddy. Hey, I'm your friend.
Despite being on guard duty, Tiger spends his entire shift getting to know Philly, and the two become immediate best friends. They have a surprising amount of things in common, and can actually relate to each other strongly, even though they're technically prey and predator.
You lost your family? Oh, no. That's terrible. You know, I lost my family too.
This friendship leads to Tiger not only freeing Fivel, but also proudly leaving the awful Maulers.
You're fired. Good. I'm glad. I never liked you. And besides, your music stinks.
It's clear that Tiger was always above the crime syndicates of New York, and was meant for better things. I mean, he's a softie who challenges the stereotype of cats in this world, and he can become the protector of mice that his boss has been pretending to be. He gets to prove his worth as a hero in the finale, when he personally carries Fivel's loved ones on his back, thus speeding up the search for the little boy, who could be anywhere in this huge city. When Fivel is finally found, Tiger not only rejoices in a wholesome family reunion, but also feels utter delight in finally having real friends. It's so dang adorable.
I've never been so happy in my life. I have friends, lots of little tiny friends.
Dimitri from Anastasia. Dimitri is a con artist who wants to trick the Empress Dowager into thinking that orphan Anya is a long-lost granddaughter, Princess Anastasia. He's a tricky character to sum up as a hero, because he's a schemer and liar who wants to get rich off of grifting folk. However, I think it's unfair to narrow his whole character down to those harsh flaws. You have to remember that he spent his whole childhood being made to feel small and below the royal family. So it makes sense that he would go down a path of back alley crime after losing the only stable job he's ever had. Keep in mind as well, he's the one who helped the royals escape Rasputin, so yeah, he is a good guy at heart. It's just that he doesn't think very highly of himself, and this low esteem has made him believe that he's not worthy of respect. Hence why he stoops to crime to get a better life.
No more forging papers, no more stolen goods. We'll have 3 tickets out of here. 1 for you, 1 for me, and 1 for Anastasia!
Sure, things start off rough between Dimitri and Anastasia, but their unspoken attraction helps Dimitri to temper his roguish scoundrel persona, as he goes from resenting Anya for not being an easy-to-control puppet-free scheme.
Stop fiddling with that thing. Sit up straight. Remember, you're a Grand Duchess.
How is it that you know what Grand Duchesses do or don't do?
To falling for a free spirit, sense of humor, and ambitious dreams.
I'm just trying to give you a,
Compliment?
Of course, yes.
Not to mention, once he learns that Anya really is the princess, he's quick to embrace a new duty that's bigger than his criminal career, reuniting a divided family and restoring the throne, even if that means saying goodbye to the woman that he loves.
And you will walk out of her life forever. Well, princesses don't marry kitchen boys.
He doesn't just turn down a bountiful reward for bringing the princess home, he also gives up his life of crime to become a willing sidekick to Anastasia in her final battle against Rasputin. He gives Anastasia the chance to show her courage against a childhood boogeyman while loyally supporting her in the fight without ever stealing her thunder or underestimating her.
Hold on! Finally, the last Romanov death.
The film then finishes on a high note in an ending that shows that Dimitri now sees himself as being worthy of a princess, and above the petty world of financial swindling. He may have been raised to feel small, but Anastasia now makes him feel valued and secure. Vlad from Anastasia. Vlad is an ex-member of the Imperial Court who helps Dimitri with his newest scheme. Now, yes, Vlad is just as guilty as Dimitri when it comes to the crime of con artistry, but Vlad doesn't even seem to be taking the scheme that seriously. It just seems to be something he's fallen into after losing his job at the palace. It's Vlad's nonchalant and jolly approach to the crime that helps him to be chill about everything. Heck, he seems to be more invested in guiding the younger characters than making sure that he's pulling off the perfect stunt. Sure, he puts his all into training Anya to fit the princess image, but when Anya starts having her doubts, he's there to be a voice of reason and kindness.
I see an engaging and fiery young woman. who on a number of occasions has shown a regal command equal to any royal in the world.
Plus, he's the only one who can see that our romantic leads are falling in love, and he's happy to play matchmaker for the couple in denial. Oh, and I love how much he adores royal family member Sophie. He's crazy about her, and his wooing of her is Gomez Adams levels of seduction. We can buy that Sophie is smitten by him in return too, because he's such a charming teddy bear of a man.
Sophie Stanislavskayevna Somokov Smirnov.
Now, yes, he is delighted when the scheme is a success, but his happiness doesn't depend entirely on this crime working. You see, once he learns that Anya is the real princess, he doesn't get into a huff or go into panic mode. No, he's actually so excited that his friend has found a family.
That means our Anya has found her family. We have found the heir to the Russian throne.
In the end, Vlad is rewarded for returning Anastasia by being given his old job back. Something that makes me happy, because he's just too nice to be a con artist, and deserves a stable career that he excels at. Akima, from Titan AE. Akima is a space pilot on a quest to find Titan, a station that holds the archives of Earth, which was destroyed long ago by the evil Dredge. Sure, she has a sharp tongue and a snarky sense of humor.
I'm still naked here.
I hadn't noticed. Now hold still or you lose something really important.
But she's far from a cynic. Unlike our main hero, Kale, she has embraced a sentimentality for Earth and feels incredibly optimistic about using Titan to bring back a homeworld. She comes from a drifter space colony, a community that has tried to keep Earth culture alive, but in a very artificial and metallic way. So while Akima feels proud to be a drifter, she still yearns for a real organic Earth. It's kind of amazing that, despite a living situation and treatment by the Dredge, Akima retains an unbendable idealism for humanity's potential to walk on soil again.
We had a home. The Titan is our chance to find one again.
Even her room on the ship is being decorated with Earth antiques and memories from her roots. What others call useless trash, she sees as remnants of her very origins, and what she needs to help her bunker feel more homely. She's not lost in the clouds though. She's a very skilled pilot and she 100% knows it. It's a very well earned level of confidence, because she repeatedly proves that she can keep the mission on track or depend on her natural skills to take risks.
Turn back!
No way.
We'll never make it through.
We don't have a choice.
Her talents aren't limited to just the ship though, because we also get countless examples of her knack for combat. Heck, she will even kick ass to pass the time.
Are you in there?
Well, if it isn't the captain, what kept you?
Oh, and she has an incredible understanding of the Dredge kind too. She can read our villains like a book. Yes, it's out of a need for survival, but it shows that she knows that her enemy is a serious force to be reckoned with.
So what did the human race ever do to the Dredge?
It's not what we did. They're afraid of what we might become.
She doesn't let their immense power overwhelm her though, because she's never reluctant about taking on the role of soldier for any dogfight against the Dredge. Heck, she becomes one of the major Titan pilots in their final takedown.
Akima, I can't shoot you!
I've got it!
Akima is the hopeful light that burns bright for humanity's desire to rise from the ashes. But Setlight is also willing to scorch anyone who tries to put her out. Kale, from Titan AE. Kale is a salvage station worker whose life gets turned upside down when he's invited to join a quest to find Titan, which happened to be created by his very own father. My favourite thing about him is that he's not a typical action hero, because he also happens to be a massive tech nerd, someone who has grown up loving inventing and understands the mechanics behind ship technology. So even though he's thrown into loads of fights or conflicts, he's not some one-liner meathead who punches his way out of everything. He can solve predicaments through his passion of engineering, even if said technology is incredibly advanced to him. I'd say that the crux of his character though is who he's become since he lost his father, who stayed on Earth to protect his Titan project, only to be wiped out in the Dredge's line of fire. Kale's daddy issues are very complicated, because he grieves for a parent, but also feels abandoned and betrayed. Instead of maturely processing all of these emotions, he's become a very pessimistic and cynical man, with no hope at all in humanity's place in the universe.
They'll be reading about us in textbooks and displaying our bones in alien museums.
Yeah, well, Having your planet blown up can have that effect on a species.
These negative feelings are confronted when he meets other characters on the ship to Titan. Captain Corso makes Kale realize that he does crave a father figure.
Got it? Open her up. Give these angels something to chase.
Yes, Corso later outs himself as a villain, which muddies Kale's father issues even more, because he has to go through the same cycle of mistrust and loss all over again. But his relationship with Corso was still an effective way for him to address his feelings towards paternity.
You can't stay out here. I'll take care of it. So let's move. Go on. Get out of here.
While the optimistic Akima helps him to restore his faith in humanity's survival. While Akima does end up losing her hope in the Titan quest after the Corso betrayal, it gives Kale the chance to take up the mantle of voice of optimism, thus showing that Akima's idealism has truly rubbed off on him.
Was I seriously injured back there or something? Because, funny, I thought you just said we're gonna stop them.
That's right.
All this growth comes full circle when Kale gets to bring his late dad's vision to life, which not only serves as a way to keep his father's legacy alive, but also shows that Kale now understands his dad's intentions behind Titan and why he risked his life for it. Goon from Titan AE. This quirky and eccentric scientist is a passionate little turtle man who is very reliable to his crew because of his wide knowledge and clever calculations.
Only 13,000 kicks away.
Have Akima lay in the course.
In a movie set in the cold reaches of space, an adorable comic relief alien makes for a comforting side character, someone wholesome who can calm us through the stormy adventure, with his childlike spark and enthusiasm for technology.
I made it last night in my sleep. Apparently I used Gindrogak. Highly unstable.
Although, he's also a very social creature. He doesn't just recluse himself in his lab all day, he has feelings for all of his workmates. So much so, that he takes Kale and Akima's supposed departure to heart.
Why they not say goodbye to Goon?
When it comes to missions on the field, Goon tends to be assigned to ship watching, most likely because Captain Corso has no faith in the science wizard's courage in battle. I mean, when Corso outs himself as a villain, the captain has a field day beating up and belittling the little fella. However, don't let appearances deceive you, because I would say that Goon is maybe the most honourable and brave crew member. You see, when Preed plants a bomb on Stiff, Goon instinctively grabs it and takes it far away, putting Stiff's safety before his very own.
I'll just take a little nap.
Then, to our relief, he survives the blast, and gets to finally embrace being the action hero that he's always wanted to be, showing that Corso greatly underestimated his stamina.
Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?
Justin from The Secret of Nim. This dashing swashbuckler is the head of the guards for the Rats of Nim. He's a smooth-talking rapscallion who instantly charms us on first sight. Think Wesley from The Princess Bride if he was a rodent. I especially love how Justin's cheeky wit contrasts against all the more serious characters around him, whether he's teasing the salty Mr. Ages,
Reveal thy name.
Justin, you featherhead.
or confidently back-talking the smug and evil Jenna.
We were just talking about you.
That's refreshing, Jenner. Usually you're screaming about us.
He's also wonderfully gentle with Mrs. Brisby, who is certainly alien to the rat's customs or practices. He's everything that she could have ever asked for on her quest, not only vouching for her in a debate, but also guiding her in a scary mission to drug the cat.
I don't think I can do this.
Yes, you can. Now take a deep breath.
On top of all of these personality perks is a fantastic swordsman. It's very easy to buy that he's earned the position of captain, because his combat skills against an unhinged Jenna are super impressive. Oh, and even after being heavily exhausted by his sword fight, he's still eagerly quick to leap into rescue mode when Mrs. Brisby's house starts sinking. Like holy moly, this awesome man really is one of the coolest Bluth heroes. Fivel from An American Tale. It's very easy to feel for Fivel's predicament in this film. He's both lost his family and any sense of a home. New York isn't just alien to him, it's a concrete jungle that's full of danger. What's scary to you and me can be twice as traumatizing to a child mouse. Plus, keep in mind that every human wants to kill him on sight. While Tanya is radiating with hope for Fivel, and Papa has given up on his son returning, Fivel falls right in the middle. He sways back and forth between being highly optimistic and completely surrendered, as he experiences the many contradictions of the American dream.
Papa told me everyone knows it, there are no cats.
Even though he suffers many traumas, he still manages to use his wit to escape every obstacle and trap, as well as become the creative force behind the entire mouse revolution against the cats. His adventure across New York is full of frustrating misleads and misdirections, but somehow, through these twisted paths, Fivel manages to both expose the corrupt ringleader of the cats and convince a good feline to switch sides. It doesn't matter where fate drops Fivel in this city, he's always able to show a precocious spirit, a lost child who can orchestrate full-on rebellions while also tearing apart the oppressive system from the inside, even though the world could easily squash him.
Come here, you little... Gentlemen, cat's out of the bag.
So it's awesome that, after facing an American nightmare, he finally gets to reunite with his family. A happy ending that feels beyond earned, because Fivel managed to simultaneously survive through hell and play a crucial part in his species' fight back. Littlefoot from the Land Before Time. Littlefoot is a young Apatosaurus who becomes the chief of a group of lost herbivore kids that are trying to reach the legendary Great Valley. He organically fits into the role of leader because he's well educated, mature, and sensible. Sure, not all of his plans are executed brilliantly, but he has impressive survival skills for a child.
Tree stars grow where there's lots of water. If we follow this water...
and a knack for tactical strategy.
Look, we'll coax him to the deep end of the pond. He can't swim with those scrawny arms.
On top of these things, he's a very motivating captain, someone who will not give up on his friends and knows exactly what to say when making a commanding speech to his little herd.
Oh, you can't quit now. What if the Great Valley's just over the top of these rocks?
Sure, Littlefoot's persistence does exhaust the kids, and this can cause a lot of tension between the friends, something that Sarah takes way too far eventually.
But it's the wrong way! Who says? My mother! Then she was the stupid long neck too.
Said conflict actually shows us that Littlefoot isn't perfect. I mean, he's still just a kid. Unlike all children, he can let his emotions get the best of him. That being said, he's still an extremely empathetic friend, whether he's encouraging Petri to fly or making sure that the stubborn Sarah is fed. I can honestly see Littlefoot becoming an official herd leader once he grows up.
Shh! Quiet. Stay low.
However, there is a sad side to his character. You see, he's actually lost his mother, and that hangs over him throughout the whole film. I've always appreciated how this movie gives Littlefoot time to naturally grieve, while also having an adult help guide the boy through his pain.
I miss her so much.
And you'll always miss her, but she'll always be with you, as long as you remember the things she taught you.
It's like Littlefoot's mother is joining us on the adventure because we're following her map to the Great Valley. Plus, it's also implied that her spirit is shining a light on the valley once we're close, which is beautiful. Anastasia from Anastasia. Anya is an orphan who really wants to find her original home and family, but she suffers from amnesia. So when con artists Dimitri and Vlad realize that she looks a lot like the long-lost Princess Anastasia, they convince her to try and prove that she could be the missing Grand Duchess. I personally can't confirm how accurate this film's take on amnesia is, but I will say that it's an engaging portrayal of an orphaned woman who has forgotten her history. The film paints Anya's identity crisis in a very sympathetic light by showing how truly lost, alone, and insecure she feels without any knowledge of her roots. There's a hole in her life's timeline, and that really damages her self-esteem.
I see a skinny little nobody with no past and no future.
In spite of this mental obstacle, Anya remains high-spirited, bubbly, and fierce. Her amnesia may have fractured a part of her, but it hasn't diluted her personality much. You can tell that her time at the prison-like orphanage shaped her into someone truly rebellious and sassy. Heck, some of the most quotable lines in the film come from Anya, all thanks to her trademark wittiness and knack for clapbacks.
Do you really think I'm royalty?
You know I do.
Then stop bossing me around.
We end up falling for her charms so much that we can cherish her amnesia recovery just as much as she does, with every unlocked memory serving as another triumphant step forward for her mental health.
There was a boy who worked in the palace. He opened a wall. I'm sorry, that's crazy.
This is what makes the eventual family reunion so dang heartwarming. We're granted the last piece of the puzzle for Anya's past, learn that Anya's fieriness comes from her granny, and she's given a chance to movingly relive all the nostalgia that was once taken from her.
Olga made me so mad. She said it looked like a pig riding a donkey.
However, that's not the complete end to her arc. The film doesn't quickly wrap everything up in a pretty bow, because that would oversimplify Anastasia's story and what she's been through. Yeah, she's found out who she is at long last, but she also needs to conquer the very evil that traumatized her as a child and took away her loved ones, in a final fight that really shows how much more self-confident she is now that the jigsaw of her identity is complete.
I'm not afraid of you!
I can fix that!
Plus, the film also gives her a chance to pursue a life outside her royal heritage. It's great that she's discovered that she's a princess, but a kind grandma allows her to find happiness outside said inherited crown. And that joy comes in the form of a rule-breaking romance that defiantly challenges classicism. Before I reveal my number 1 pick, please subscribe to my channel for more fun animation-related videos. Mrs. Brisby from The Secret of Nim. This mother is trying to help her son Timmy recover from an illness, but the local humans are making that impossible. So she ventures off to the Rosebush to ask for support from the Rats of Nim, who agreed to help Mrs. Brisby move her house to safety. Mrs. Brisby is a very timid, polite and soft-spoken woman, but she's never a pushover. If she needs to scold a child or tell off a friend, she will be firm and straightforward.
Well, children, now you've done it.
It was Martin.
She does often admit that she's very afraid as a heroine, but that doesn't stop her from being consistently amazing. It's actually her love for her children that pushes her to do the impossible and risk her life for her family. Yes, most folks know her as Jonathan Brisby's wife, which is kind of insulting, but she's happy to swallow her pride and use her deceased husband's legacy to gain trust or access in the Rats community.
May I present Mrs. Jonathan Brisby?
It's kind of wild how many scary or intense obstacles she faces in the film, but even more impressive that she manages to overcome every encounter despite her obvious terrified fear. Even if she does end up stuck or trapped, she will stubbornly use her imagination to creatively escape. Now, many have criticised a magic amulet of being a deus ex machina in the finale. While I get that that's an easy nitpick to make, I will defend its symbolic importance. You see, its magic represents the strength locked inside Mrs. Brisby, and it's only triggered after Mrs. Brisby has shown how far she'll go for her kids. Not to mention, it's not like it randomly appears out of thin air in the climax. It's introduced right at the film's very start, and we're frequently reminded that Mrs. Brisby is wearing it.
Stone.
No matter how you feel about the amulet though, we can all agree that Mrs. Brisby is a legendary hero, one of the best of the best. Next, you can go watch my ranking of all the Don Bluth villains. I've been Jambareeqi, cheerio folks.